French immersion on French as a second language on kids with LDs and learning a second language, because they also had the same vision. They were like, we get these kids that have been in French immersion and they're in grade 4 and they don't know how to read in English and they don't know how to read in French, and they should just learn how to read in their first language before they start learning a second language. And I'm like, no, that's not true. And I've actually, over the last 2 years, I've seen a definite shift in their perspectives and in their way of seeing things. So we're gonna play a little bit of fact or fiction. So learning a second language places too much strain on a struggling learner's brain. It's too much. Their brain is already having to work so hard that it's too much work for them to learn a second language.
Myth.
Fact or fiction. So the research does not support that at all, right? The research shows us that there are lots of cognitive benefits for kids who are developing typically, and also kids who are struggling with learning a second language. So there's better executive control. That's all your decision making that you do in your brain. And executive function challenges tend to go along with learning disorders. So you get the kids that have ADHD, they can't manage their time, they can't self-regulate, they can't stay on task. You know, you might read the story that your kid has written and you're like, well, okay, everything's going together, everything's working out, and then where did that come from? All of a sudden they're talking about something that is completely not related. That's an executive function issue, right? So kids that are in a second language learning environment or can learn a second language have better decision-making skills. They're better at self-regulating and doing all those things. Like we said, better metacognitive skills. So they're able to think about their thinking a little bit more because they have to. They're in a more challenging environment, and so it motivates them to think about what's going on, to think about the context, all of those skills that they need and are in fact going to be super helpful later on, especially for things like reading comprehension, writing, all of those higher level skills, those more critical thinking skills. Metacognitive abilities is second to none. And they also just have better academic skills in general. And this is true for kids that are struggling and kids that are typically developing, right? We're looking for, we're just putting them in a more complex environment so they have to adapt. Fact or fiction, a kid who is experiencing learning difficulties should not enroll in a French immersion program, or they should pull out. Let's add that. Fiction. So they should definitely, every family is unique, every child is unique, but we don't want to be saying don't enroll, okay? And we also want to be encouraging them, especially if the kid likes French immersion, or they like their French class, to stay in their French class. Because one of the worst things that happens is the kid is struggling, right? They know they're not doing well in school, they know that it's not going well, and then at the end of grade 3, all of a sudden, their parents sit them down and say, all right, we're going to pull you out of the program. And you might have to change school, you might have to leave your friends, you might have to change programs, and the kid is like, well, why? And for some of the kids, it feels like they failed out of French immersion, which when you compound that on top of I'm already struggling, is just a killer, right? Yeah, French, they'll probably struggle in the same way in English, right? And we need to make sure everybody in the system and also in the wider support system are aware of that. There needs to be a better understanding, even among Anglophone teachers, of what LDs are and how they manifest and how it affects the kid, right? Because we still hear things like, oh, dyslexia is flipping letters backwards, right? They flip their letters. Not just. Right? That might be a part of it. That might be one way it manifests, but it's not necessarily the way it's going to manifest for everybody, right? There's a lot of people that are like, oh, they're just not bright kids, which is not true at all. In fact, a lot of them are very bright, and they come up with the craziest compensation strategies. They come up with the craziest little workarounds to figure things out. It's amazing to see how their brains work. Right? But we need to make sure that everybody is aware of this and everybody kind of knows where to go if they need help as well. Okay? So With early identification, with proper programming supports, everybody can be successful in French immersion and FSL. We just need to make sure that we know what those supports are. Okay, let's go to another kind of diversity. Children whose first language is not English should not enroll in French immersion. Fiction, yes. And in fact, allophone parents, so parents who don't speak French or English, have been enrolling their kids in French immersion in pretty high numbers because they realize how much of an advantage it is for their kid to speak French and English. They realize they're going to learn both, okay? And it's an advantage for them to be in a French immersion program. In the Francophone board, we actually have an increasing number of allophone families, which is funny. They immigrate into Montreal, they go to French school for a little bit, and then they come out west. But these kids, because they already have another language, and they're learning 2 languages at the same time, plus their home language, it's amazing to see them go. It's amazing to see them kind of work. Because what happens a lot of the time is, oh, your kid doesn't speak English, well, they should learn English first. English it catches. In French, in Francophone culture, in Francophone schools, we talk about English almost like a cold. It catches. It's almost impossible to meet a kid in Alberta who does not speak some of the things that I would see, right? I would see really high quality research-based instruction that supports all learners. Some of my teacher friends and colleagues here will know about a framework called response to intervention. So we have this pyramid, and 80% of our students are down here, and they're universal. They will respond to any kind of high quality instruction, right? These are the kids that kind of learn despite us, right? They're the kids that will learn even if we weren't there, right? And then in the middle, we have our targeted kiddos. These are the guys that are struggling, but if we just give them a little boost, they'll catch up, right? Or they'll almost catch up. And then at the very, very tippy top, we have our kids that are really, really struggling, but they have some really severe needs and that need the most support and the most help. But if, in general, my regular classroom instruction is really high quality, everybody's going to learn, right? Everybody's going to succeed. And then beyond that, we need to, and this is where teacher professional development, teacher learning, making changes at programs like the Campus Saint-Jean is going to be important. It's starting to update some of the French immersion and the French FSL teaching strategies. One of the moms that I work with at the center, her kid comes to me. She's an inclusive education support person for MC Catholic. She deals mainly with high school kids, but I was telling her about something the other day, and she goes, my French immersion teachers, they're so stuck, and they're kind of traditional. And we do have some of those teachers that are very traditional. I know Michael and I were talking about, there's more to French literature than just the Le Petit Prince. But we need to start like going into different things and, you know,